What's up, people? So, one of the Star Wars things that I was really excited about was Tales of the Jedi, and I know that Dave Filoni was creating it, just like he was in charge of Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch, and like worked on Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and I was really excited about this because it's more of the animation from Clone Wars, which is really good, and it's going all over the galaxy or around the timeline from the prequel era. And I heard that they would be about both Dooku and Ahsoka. So immediately I'm like, yep, I'm into it. I'm immediately excited for it. So, yep, I finally finished it. It took me a little bit because I'm watching a bunch of other stuff too, just for fun. But yeah, Tales of the Jedi is finally complete for me. And yeah, I just wanted to make a video about it because, yeah, it is really good and probably the best Star Wars this year. Like, we've had Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, which is almost done, and now we have this. And I would say out of all of them, Tales is my favorite of all of them. Like, just it has everything I would want from Star Wars, you know? So, without further ado, I would like to start with the Count Dooku episodes. Those are 6 episodes. 3 are about Dooku, 3 about Ahsoka. Let's start with Dooku. Starting with Dooku, I have always found him as one of the most fascinating characters from the prequels. Well, I mean, first of all, he's played by Sir Christopher Lee, which immediately gives him a win. But other than that, you know, you have that scene in episode 2 where he's talking to Obi-Wan, and just the way he mentions Qui-Gon spoke very highly of him, and he even like tells him that there's a Sith like in charge of the Republic and, you know, pulling all the strings, and like he's flat out trying to tell him, hey dude, things are gonna go bad. Like, I'm trying to warn you about it, and he doesn't believe him. And then you also have the fact that when he's fighting Obi-Wan and Anakin in this finale, you see him cut Anakin's hand off and then force him away. He has this look on his face that where he actually looks like he regretted doing that. He didn't want to, but he knew he needed to. Like, this like Dooku has a sense of good in him, even though he is a Sith Lord, and also the fact that he has a Sith name, Darth Tyrannus, but he chooses not to go by it just as his normal name, Count Dooku. So I've always found that really interesting about him. So, like, I've always wanted to know, why did he turn to the dark side? I've always wanted to know that. I mean, I did actually read an audiobook about it, Dooku Jedi Lost, and I thought it was really good. But it does seem like the TV shows don't really care about the books. I've noticed that, like on Bad Batch, I know contradicted the Kanan comics, but I guess so. So putting the retconning aside, so now we have these episodes. It's exploring Dooku. Who obviously they got Corey Burton back, who voiced him in the Clone Wars, who does, I think, a really good Christopher Lee impression. And yeah, I really enjoyed Dooku in those episodes. Obviously, in that first episode, he's Qui-Gon's master, as he mentioned in episode 2. And it's really interesting seeing him being a good guy and also like use parts of the dark side, showing it was always somewhat a part of him, similar to Anakin when he used part of the dark side before he even considered turning. And then you go to the second episode where he frees that senator, and he makes him reconsider some things. Like, wait, the Jedi aren't really doing their job. Like, wait, no, they rescue the senator in the first episode, the senator's son in the first episode, and then the second episode they're finding a body, and Mace Windu's like, now we're just taking the body and leaving. But Dooku's like, no, I want to investigate how this happened. And he thinks the Jedi aren't doing their job properly. And it's, again, very similar to Anakin, who realized the Jedi are kind of, like, bad at their jobs. Of Mace Windu claims they're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, but Windu himself, like, contradicts that multiple times, and this is one of the few. And also the bitterness in Dooku's voice when he finds out Windu's been taken to the put onto the council. Well, like, he follows the rules, and like, you really begin to understand why Dooku disagreed with the Jedi and why he would want to leave. Then you go to the third episode, which takes place during the events of Phantom Menace, where he finds out that as the Sith have returned, obviously referring to Darth Maul on Tatooine, when he has that last conversation with Qui-Gon, and then, of course, we all know Maul kills Qui-Gon, and that leaves a bad taste in Dooku's mouth. Like, somewhat similar to Padme dying, that's why Anakin, like, fully committed to the dark side. Qui-Gon's death is what sent Dooku over the edge, like, turning to Darth Sidious, and, like, you know what? Like, he's already done some bad things beforehand, and he's like, why stop now? And he fully commits to it when he goes on to kill Yaddle, which, by the way, really cool to see Yaddle after seeing her cameo in episode 1. Really cool to actually see her as a character. And then, yeah, just, it was pretty crazy, too, seeing sort of a pretty violent death, the way they killed her. And, yeah, not much else. Like, these episodes really make you sympathize with Dooku, really understand his motivation, why he turned to the dark side in the first place, and just made him probably one of my new favorite Star Wars characters now. Maybe not top 10, but pretty close. Like, so yeah, the Dooku episodes are really good. So now we move on to the Ahsoka episodes. So the first one, which was the first episode of the series, technically, was we see Ahsoka being born, and then jump a year later, where her mom is hunting with her, and we see, like, the beginning of her using the Force. With, I think she was using the Force to control that tiger or whatever it was, to help her, or maybe not control, but, like, bond with it. Like I remember hearing that kids show signs of the Force when they're, like, a year old, and that's where, of course, Plo Koon would eventually come in and take her to train. I was expecting Koon to show up, but I guess not. And so, really good first one. The second episode for Ahsoka was really interesting too, where you see throughout the Clone Wars Anakin actually training her. One of my minor gripes of the Clone Wars, we didn't really see much of Ahsoka's training, and here we are. She's training in that one spot in the temple, but Anakin's like, no, that's not enough. You need to actually do something more challenging. And he has his clone, the 501st, shoot stuns at her, and actually it's a lot more challenging for her, because, like, he wants to prepare her for anything. And then the episode ends with going into that final episode of Clone Wars where Ahsoka will fight the 501st after Palpatine forced activate the chip and then to activate Order 66. Like, that's actually really tragic. Anakin unknowingly was preparing Ahsoka for Order 66, which just made me sad thinking about that. Especially, like, Jesse was one of the clones that was training with her, and now he actually means to kill her at the end. Like, Order 66 really is tragic, man. So that's that. And now for the final episode of the series for Ahsoka and this season, where it starts with her being at Padme's funeral, which I heard about, and I wasn't sure what to feel about that. Like, would she risk being there? But I guess so. I mean, they were friends, and you obviously have Bail Organa giving her that communicator to like call me if you need me. We see Ahsoka trying to live after the Jedi, after Order 66, like trying to hide out, but of course an Inquisitor comes after her, and the way she defeats him gave me similar vibes to in Rebels when Obi-Wan and Darth Maul had their final confrontation. You know, that scene where the two are posing and they're just staring at each other, lightsabers drawn, and then you're expecting a big fight, right? But then Maul runs over to him and Obi-Wan just strikes him down after hitting the lightsaber twice. He then just kills him right there. Or like, as much as I love lightsaber duels, obviously they're awesome. It is really refreshing seeing something much shorter and not too drawn out. And same vibe here, where Ahsoka and the Inquisitor are posing, ready to strike. Like, even though Ahsoka doesn't actually have her lightsaber. And then she ends up defeating him easily. And honestly, pretty gruesome too. Ooh, I think she cut off his head. So, yeah. And then, according to the Ahsoka book, which, I mean, this series contradicts that book, but according to that book, I know that in that book, she fights an Inquisitor too, and she ends up using that lightsaber to create the white lightsabers that we see in Rebels and The Mandalorian. So I think that's what's gonna happen. That's what they were implying happened here too. But yeah, and then she of course joins Bail Organa for the rebellion, and then that leads into her intro in Rebels when she fights for the Rebel Alliance to fight against the Empire. And I mean, I already love Ahsoka. She is literally my favorite female character in all of Star Wars. And this series, well, maybe not improved her because she was already great, but this series like added some extra flavors into her story. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that I now have that. Some extra context for her, what she was doing around the galaxy that we didn't see on screen, at least. So that's the series overall. My biggest complaint is that the episodes aren't long enough. None of the episodes are 20 minutes long, and I just wish they were longer, man. And I've seen some people say they want more, and I agree. After it was over, I'm like, I want more of this. Like, I've heard, like, come on, how cool would it be if we had more of this? It's like, I hope they make a season 2, because I want to see more just stories about these Jedi. And like, it doesn't have to be a series or a movie. It can just be some stories that we want. And I hope they make more of these. Like, and yeah, not much else I can think of. Now for my tier list. And so here's my tier list. If you missed the video where I ranked all the rest of this, you can check it out with the card, or is it over here? I don't remember, but yeah, I have Tales down here plus Andor, but that first season isn't over yet, so we're not going to rank that just yet. But yeah, where would I rank Tales of the Jedi? You know what? Let's put it up here. I'd say it's better than Rebels because it's a little bit more mature, but not quite as good as Mandalorian. And yeah, I think I'm satisfied with that. I just wish the episodes were longer, but overall, I had a really good time with it, and I want to see more. So that's all I could think of, and that'll be it for this. So peace.